Dionne?
Thank you so much, Naomi. The reason there is a delay, Naomi, is because we have to wait until we get into the Zoom meeting. Yeah, a couple of follow-ups. One of the most, one of the issues of most public interest at this time, given the prevailing circumstances, is a vaccine distribution plan. And I hear that we're essentially being told to wait until you're ready to release it, which is Thursday. But there really has been plenty of time in this press conference to give us that, which would have been new information. Can I ask why it wasn't thought imperative to share that information with the country at the earliest possible date? Second follow-up, I heard your response to me, Mr. Prime Minister, that you believe the government has been managing well. Healthcare workers all across the island who cannot speak publicly and therefore cannot voice their views on that have been contacting me over the past weeks expressing their own frustration and anger with what has been happening in the hospitals. Do you think there's a danger, Mr. Prime Minister, that you and perhaps the Cabinet and the Minister of Health are not getting accurate on-the-ground information because you're in a bubble and you're not hearing what the people on the front line are saying? And finally, in relation to the work from home being encouraged by the private sector, can you tell us why you wouldn't have mandated this for the private sector with obviously allowances for those people who have to be in office, given the fact that we're getting so many complaints about private sector employers who are refusing to allow their employees to work from home? Thank you.
Thank you for those questions, Dionne. Let's start with the work from home. The government has obviously far greater control directly, administratively, over the public sector. And that is how we have done it in the first time we did it. We mandated it for the public sector, and we gave basically guidance to the private sector, and it worked very well. We then modified the guidance with a mandate that if an employee requests to work from home under certain circumstances, and they can show, proof that they have an illness, they have a comorbidity, or they have to take care of someone who is not able to function without them at home, then they should be allowed to work from home. So I think as it is, this measure works, and the private sector has been leaning forward. They have not been resisting. In fact, many of them, since we have introduced the work from home, they have been working from home. And what we are saying now, the mandate, is that they should re-examine their business processes, determine what is mission critical, and everybody else, as far as they can afford to, they should work from home. Bear in mind that there is a cost for working from home. You may have to provide your employees with devices. You may have to purchase a plan for them. So the government can't just unilaterally mandate that without thinking of those costs. So it is the spirit of cooperation that the government is ensuring that that is happening. The question regarding the receipt of information, and we are in a bubble. Let me just be clear. My ears is always to the ground in this country. I don't exist in any bubble. I get information from all sources. We hear the situation in the health sector. We understand it. We have allocated in our budgets the largest allocations towards managing the pandemic. Massive allocations. We know that even with those large allocations, it is still not enough. The health sector has been underfunded for decades. It is literally a miracle. It is down to the hard work and commitment of those healthcare workers why we have been able to respond. But we also hear the cries of the persons who have lost their jobs, business people whose businesses are going to collapse, all the other complaints in the society, and we have to balance them. The government could have taken a position, that we just lock down the country and maintain a 50 or 30% capacity in the health sector. The question then comes, how do we pay for the health sector? We cannot have a unidimensional conversation about the management of COVID-19 pandemic. It has to be a complete consideration about keeping Jamaica open, about keeping production going, about keeping people safe, about maintaining equity and social justice in the country, about maintaining law and order, about maintaining our infrastructure, about keeping people employed. And if you look at all of those things and the operations of the government across all sectors, you can only come to one conclusion. I urge the Jamaican people, in this time of pandemic, let us not divide for divide's sake. Governments must be criticized. If we are not doing well, you should tell us. But we must not persist with a false and unfair narrative. It doesn't do us justice. There's no benefit for anyone for that.
Prime Minister, then, our final question to Ms. Brit.